Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Today we're going to meet a modern-day urban shepherdess. She raises sheep and goats for food and fiber, and at the same time she's restoring grasslands, reducing vegetative fire hazards, and enlivening the sheep industry in the state of California. Her name is Brittany Cole Bush. Brittany will be the keynote speaker at the 2017 Vermont Grazing and Livestock Conference, which is taking place at the Lake Morey Resort in Fairleigh on January 20th and 21st. We'll meet Brittany in just a moment, but first I want to welcome back Jen Colby. Jen heads up the annual Grazing Conference in her role as the Pasture Program Coordinator at UVM's Center for Sustainable Agriculture. Thanks so much for coming in again.
Judy, thank you.
Give us a quick overview of this year's conference.
Oh, this year's conference, we're in our 21st year, and we spent last year really focusing on many of the things that we'd accomplished in the last 20 years. What's exciting about this year is, as the 21st conference, we're now looking at the next 20 years. So the theme is all around the next 20 years and shaping the future. Brittany is a great representative of that. And we're doing all kinds of things around business planning, around good grazing planning and management, and we have a range of workshops from the very beginning person to the very experienced person. So we're very excited about that.
Now, Brittany Cole Bush is known as CBC Shepherdess.
Yep.
As you mentioned, her professional focus is developing land management programs using livestock as a tool. She works with private landowners and public agencies to restore landscapes, preserve wildlife habitat, and help encourage desirable vegetative growth, as we mentioned. In a video she shared with us, here's BCB in her home state of California in her own words.
I love to be outside with the animals and get to experience the elements. I love the fact that I get to hop in my car in Berkeley and drive to work 25 minutes to a regional park that's right there. That's right there on the urban periphery. That's what I love about my work. It's an incredibly bucolic but also contemporary mesh of a lifestyle. This is probably my ideal spot to be herding sheep and goats. There we go. There we go. I put out fires, so to speak. The main goal is to reduce vegetation that's fire hazard, as well as poison oak, blackberry, other invasives. They are a land management tool, and they are a part of our efforts to steward this land. Hey, you. I do everything in my power to create the best possible life for these animals, to have the freedom to be a sheep or a goat to their utmost. They get a new salad bowl every day. They get to go to new fresh ground every day. They're rambunctious. If there's any chance for them to get into trouble, they will. The work is hard, but the work is diverse, and it's extremely rewarding. I've had cuts and scrapes and burns and bruises, building paddocks on a daily basis, building fence line, taking down fence line, moving hundreds of animals in places where it's kind of risky. Every day I feel good about what I do, and every day is different. So let me introduce you to my goat friends. They just said hello. And you can't tell me that's not the coolest thing ever. The sheep and goats together in large numbers can impact the landscape drastically, and I feel the same about people and the community and families that I am a part of. I feel that we can make great change. Oh gosh, wow, that's grandiose. I like it.
Well, it's a pleasure now to welcome Brittany Cole Bush, the BCB Shepherdess. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's an honor and pleasure.
How did you get started being a shepherdess?
Well, I come into agriculture in a really non-traditional way. I grew up in the suburbs of Southern California, and it was really through environmental studies and agroecology in university that I first started investigating what it means to steward land and how to do so
moving forward.
And so talk a little bit about contract grazing. What's that?
Contract grazing is a really cool way to get livestock on public lands. We essentially get paid to graze as an ecosystem service, bringing livestock to non-traditional areas on the urban periphery, state parks, land trusts, things like this. We take animals to these areas and get paid to graze based on how we manage them.
And so is this contract grazing attractive for people with grazing management skills?
Absolutely. Looking into the future, I see that contract grazing can be an operation that is integrated into long-standing sheep and goat operations, as well as cattle.
And so what kinds of animals do you manage, and why do you work with the ones that you do?
I work with sheep, hair sheep primarily, and Spanish boar goats. We choose this mix of both species because goats are traditionally browsers and sheep are grazers. So we're able to really get a thorough impact on the landscape, especially for fire hazard reduction. We're really working to manage to reduce that vegetation, and sheep and goats together do a fantastic job.
And so what kind of skills do you need?
Well, I would say observation is one of the most important things. It's a traditional thing when we're working with land and livestock, is to really know the impact and the effects of what we do and how we do it. So understanding the health of the animal and how the animal is responding to how we're moving them on a landscape, and then also seasonally identifying what happens to an ecology when there is animal impact and grazing integrated into that system. So observation is a big one, and also transportation, how to herd with dogs, how to protect your animals with livestock, guardian dogs, really important. Understanding the technologies needed to move animals in a strategic way and in places where there may not be fence line. The learning curve is steep. You learn by doing, and that is a very exciting way to enter a vocation, is just to jump in head first, and that's definitely what I did.
So why do landowners want to work with custom grazers?
Landowners, private landowners all over California are beginning to really see how effective this livestock ecosystem service is. A fantastic way to steward their landscapes for all of the many reasons. Overgrowth and succession and encroachment of invasive species is a very big detriment to how we take care of our properties. Livestock are a very effective way. They can be very cost effective, environmentally friendly, and achieving long-term goals can be done with livestock in just a fantastic way.
And so based on your experiences, what sorts of trends are you seeing in the coming years for this kind of grazing?
What I think is really cool is that more and more decision makers and public agencies are seeing how effective and how practical it can be to use livestock. So what I'm seeing in the future is, instead of a few large commercial operations grazing all over the western states and proliferating all over the country, we'll have smaller boutique style contract grazers where smaller communities and smaller regions are being serviced by smaller operations, and that means more entrepreneurs.
Sounds like a good fit. Is this one of the reasons why, this kind of information can translate into a smaller state like Vermont?
Absolutely, and we've been investigating, we have a new grant investigating using a contract grazing system with organic dairy farms as a way to not only help out dairy farmers with a pasture requirement who maybe don't have the time to be able to manage heifers, with young farmers who are, maybe they're looking to build equity, they're looking to build experience, and they may have access to land but don't want to own the animals. So I think there's a lot of translatability to what Brittany does on the West Coast to what we do here.
I know, Jen, that there are some other speakers that are going to be presenting.
There are. Actually, we have Troy Bishop, who's known as very affectionately as the Grass Whisperer. He is going to be doing several different sessions on planning out your grazing to help deal with drought and to help deal with the variations that happen throughout the season. We have a whole day dedicated as well to business planning with a number of different speakers around that. And we have, we have lots of folks, lots of extension folks, but we also have a number of farmers. One of my favorite workshops is actually a set of farmers. It's a round table, and they're going to talk about how they've dealt with watering challenges and situations, how they've addressed them on their farms. And there's nobody who knows more than a 60, 70-year-old farmer who's seen it all and fixed it all.
Right.
So lots to be learned from there.
And so, Brittany, as far as you're concerned, some of the issues that you face, maybe that you want to sort of translate that to the folks that are going to be at this conference, what will you be telling them?
Well, I think what I'm able to bring is enthusiasm and hope and encouragement to the old school traditional farmer and rancher, and also to inspire that there is a next generation of agrarians, that of folks who want to enter in to regenerative systems in agriculture, and we come from non-traditional places as well. So finding dynamic ways to encourage and invite the succession of folks in the family farm is a part of that piece, and looking into the future, diversification and stacked enterprises in new and evolved ways is something that I hope to bring and share with the good folks of Vermont.
I know, Jen, you were saying that this is your 21st year, and so this is really a good example of moving forward.
This is it. We are at a point where things are changing, and organizationally, the Grass Farmers Association, the pasture program, we're all about 21 years old now. It's time to look at the next 20 years and see and figure out now how we're going to be managing things in the future.
And what would you have to say to a young person who might be at the conference thinking about, where do I fit in with the whole farming community? This is a great option.
It's absolutely a great option. I'm a landless, animalist shepherdess, and that is kind of proof in the pudding that you can get into owning livestock and managing livestock, but it's going to take collaboration for those folks who have the resources that we need. Land access is a big issue for entering into agriculture. So if we can buddy up with folks that do have those resources, have the knowledge and wisdom and the willingness to pass on some of that tradition, us young folks can integrate some new and wild harebrained ideas to bring some of that innovation and evolution and adaptation and resiliency, and it's going to take those collaborations. So my hope is to inspire young folks to not be discouraged about some of the things that folks think they need to have, like land access, for example. So if we take livestock to managing public and private landscapes, we're really creating a solution to that bottleneck that so many young agrarians have, which is land access.
And you're always looking for new information too, and new ways to do what you do.
Absolutely. I'm not an expert in the least. It takes a lifetime, and still, even at the end, we still have things to learn. For me, it's really exciting to go to different places around the country and understand that we do have a lot of similar issues, depending even though we're in different regions. So I hope to learn as much as I get to share, and it's important to participate as much as you can in gatherings of other folks. If anything, we have a good time and we learn from one another, and we get to support each other because it can get pretty tough out there.
Jen, how can people find out more about this conference?
So the full conference program is online at the pasture program website, which is uvm.edu/pasture, or they're welcome to call 802-656-5459. That's the UVM Extension Center for Sustainable Agriculture.
And once again, the conference is when?
January 20th and 21st, and it's over at Lake Morey Resort in Fairleigh. We encourage people to come and stay the night because we have 2 great days of programming.
Okay, great, terrific. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Thanks for joining us. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.